The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Pearce, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. When I was in college, I had a professor of statistics who was making the point, and I'm sure everyone has heard it, that you put an infinite number of chimpanzees in a room with an infinite number of typewriters, and they would eventually write the works of Shakespeare. And you're asking us to believe that you have an infinite number of IRS agents conducting an infinite number of audits, and they all just happen to be conservatives. It's more preposterous, sir, than my statistics professor. The fact that I got an email before the story broke from a gentleman in Socorro, New Mexico, who'd been singled out, and he didn't know why he was singled out for an audit, and there was nothing in the audit that said what it was about. But he noticed a handwritten name on the outside of the folder. And at the end of the interview, after no significant questions on his practices in his business, was asked if he knew that name. He didn't know the name. On the way home, he said, by golly, I think that's that guy I went to that meeting 3 years ago. Went to one meeting. He didn't much care for it. The Tea Party hadn't yet organized, but it was the same guy who eventually organized the Albuquerque Tea Party. Went to one meeting, wrote a small check, maybe $25. And for that, 3 years later, he's picked out, and you want us to believe there are no political overtones. You don't find any political nuances to the situation, sir, and I find that to be an incredible situation. We're also told, as we've been told in many others scandals of this scandal-ridden administration, that the administration had no knowledge. Just to run a few fast and furious, the administration had no knowledge. We had an American border agent killed with rifles that were sent illegally into Mexico. A crime was committed. No one yet has been held accountable. John Corzine took $1.5 billion from segregated accounts, 2011. And I hear you saying things like, I don't want to get in the way of the investigation. The facts will come out. At what point, sir, are you going to be suspicious that the facts won't come out? Mr. Corzine has yet to be charged, and it's a crime to take out money from segregated accounts. We could take a look at the GSA conference, the DOJ tapping of AP phones. Maybe we want to talk about the DOJ tapping of Mr. John Rosen's phones. And his parents, who has said he's a co-conspirator. A co-conspirator says guilty, and I wonder what his parents were accused of. So we are sitting here today understanding that this administration had no knowledge of any of these circumstances, not even of Benghazi. And we're to sit here. I think one of my colleagues said artful answers that you give. Myself, I don't know. What I'm going to ask about is the war on the poor that this administration is engaged in driving interest rates to zero. You're decimating the people who have no financial sophistication. These are people 8 times more likely to have money in just bank accounts. The aging. They're the people who come out to my town halls and say, I live my life correctly. I bought my home. I have a savings account. I was expecting that I could live on my savings, and now I'm having to dip into it because I get no interest every month. This administration continues to have its war on the poor, the elderly, at the benefit of Wall Street, while you tout that you're doing so much for the 99%, when the case is exactly opposite. So I don't really have any great impression that you're going to answer any of the questions that come up to date impression that you'll stop your war on the poor. Just know that it is realized that it's going on. New Mexico is 31,000 is our per capita income. We recognize a war on the poor when we see it. And I yield back.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott.